This is the top 10 discontinued food items we miss, part 6. Starting off at number 10 now, we have Big Stuff Oreo. These things were first released in 1984 and there's not really much to say about them, to be honest, other than they were like normal Oreos but massive. If you want to talk numbers, they were actually 10 times the size of a normal Oreo. They were sold in packs of 10 and each one contained 316 calories. That's about 14% of an adult's entirely calorie intake for the day. They were discontinued in 1991, presumably because the normal human-sized Oreo sold a lot better. Next up at number 9 now, we have Lay's Wavy Chocolate Chips. Now Lay's have come in a lot of different flavours over the years, but one of the most memorable was Wavy Chocolate Chips, described as original potato chips dipped in milk chocolate. It was a limited edition flavour that promised to be both salty and sweet, kind of like having your dessert with your dinner. Now personally, that doesn't really sound like my cup of tea, to be honest. Would you guys eat this? Have you guys eaten this? Are you still okay? Alright, coming in at the number 8 spot now, we have pudding roll-ups. In the 80s, fruit roll-ups and pudding snacks of any kind were hugely popular. That's why some genius over at the Betty Crocker Company came up with pudding roll-ups, a sort of twisted hybrid combination of the two. And kids, they love them. They came in 3 flavours, butterscotch, chocolate fudge and milk chocolate. Now just like normal roll-ups, you rolled these out to get yourself a nice flat chocolatey pudding that you could just then stuff straight into your mouth. Because who has time for a spoon, right? I don't have time for a spoon. Next up at number 7 now, we have Snick Snacks. Before Kit Kats and class action lawsuits, Snick Snacks were the snappable chocolate bar of the 1970s. They were made by Mars as the competitor to Hershey's Kit Kats, but they were literally the exact same. From the chocolate to the wafers, even the name was pretty much a rip-off. They were fairly popular for a while, but Kit Kats had the last laugh as they're still around and Snick Snacks are in this video. What an awful place to be in this video. Next up at number 6 we have Mingles. Mingles were a type of mint chocolate released in the UK back in 2002. They came in 5 different varieties. Red was dark and white chocolate with a truffle centre, blue was the same but with milk chocolate, brown had a fondant mint centre, yellow was solid milk and white chocolate with a hint of mint, and finally green was milk chocolate mint crisp, the absolute classic. They were very popular in the UK for almost a decade before being discontinued in 2011. Next up at number 5 now we have Vionetta. I once read online that Vionetta is like an ice cream lasagna and I think that's a pretty fair description. The ice cream came in layered chocolatey waves stuffed into a big box, and for me as a kid growing up in the UK I absolutely loved it. I don't know if the UK still has this, but I do know it's been widely discontinued across much of the US and Canada. Other cake ice cream things are available, but anyone who has tried Vionetta will know it was simply the best. Moving on to number 4 now, we have Pringles Chili Limon. I don't even know if that's the right pronunciation, but right now I bet a lot of you guys are thinking, no, wait, I only saw these things in the store like last year. Well, that's apparently when they were discontinued. It was a very recent discontinuation. This flavour was a very unique Pringles flavour. Personally, I didn't really like it too much, but I know a lot of people did. It had a real cult following who loved its hot and sweet flavour. On the front of it, it said limited time only, so we always knew it was never going to last, but I'm sure if enough fans kick up a fuss, it could be back this time next year. Maybe not. I don't know. Moving on to number 3 now, we have PacMan Spaghetti. This one needs no explanation, but I'd be out of a job if I didn't do that, so here I go. Little bits of spaghetti in the shape of Pac-Man. They came in 3 flavours, cheese, golden chicken, and mini meatballs. I don't think the mini bit was part of the flavour though. They were popular in the early to mid 1980s, right when Pac-Man mania was at its absolute peak. Now I'm guessing that's why it sold well. I honestly think you could make Pac-Man poison and someone would still eat it. And next up at number 2 now we have peanut butter boppers. You can't go wrong with a bit of peanut butter, can you? That's what Nature Valley were thinking when they released these bars in the mid 80s. They were quite literally tiny peanut butter logs. They were made by rolling together peanut butter with oats, Rice Krispies and chocolate chips. Basically, they were so peanutty that if you ever got attacked by someone with a peanut allergy, your best form of defense would be to hit them with a peanut butter bopper. what a mouthful. There were 4 other types of flavors available: Fudge Chip, Honey Crisp, Cookie Crunch, and Fudge Graham. And I think I might actually name my first son Fudge Graham. And finally now, at number 1, we have Reeses Swoops. These were released in the 2000s, and at first glance, yes, they look exactly like Pringles, but they tasted like Reese's chocolate. Each container had 3 individually sealed 6-packs of Swoops, and each piece was made of chocolate with a peanut butter squiggle on top. They were quite popular for a while. It was a bit of a novelty to see chocolate in the shape of a chip, but after the initial buzz wore off, Swoops were swept off the market in August 2006. Starting off at number 10 now, we have Pop Quiz. This was a microwavable popcorn that came out in the late 1980s. It was aimed at kids by making the whole experience of eating it into a game. You see, the popcorn came in 5 colors: red, purple, yellow, green, and blue. Thing is, you didn't know which color it was going to be until after you had popped it. Now if that sounds too fun to be true, wait till you see the commercial.
What'll pop up next? Are you ready? Kate!
Green.
Too bad!
Next up at number 9, we have McVitie's Penguin Flipper Dippers. These things always have pretty ridiculous names, don't they? Anyone from the UK will know about this penguin chocolate bar, but in early 2005, the company experimented by making these dipping packages made up of their biscuit and either a vanilla or chocolate dip. A toffee one came later on, but it seems that people just want to eat their chocolate bars in one pre-made bite, and the dippers eventually disappeared. At number 8 now, we have Munchkins. Do we have any savoury fans watching this? Yeah? Any salt lovers? Well, you would have loved these, or you might even remember them. They were produced by the famous Keebler company, and their flavours included sour cream, onion, and ranch. Now obviously, the idea was for dipping them in some other sort of sauce, but they held up pretty well by themselves. I did also find a Facebook group about them, but they only have 39 likes, and the most recent post was about 4 years ago saying, "Aylin, what the f*** this?" So yeah, I don't think they'll be making a comeback anytime soon. Moving on to number 7 now, we have Dutch Mill Donuts. Fans of these donuts swear on donuts' lives that they were, to this day, the best donuts that money could buy. They were all natural, whole wheat donuts that came in plain, chocolate, and cinnamon flavour. They were simple, stripped back donuts that weren't full of additives, and that's why they were so popular. On the one hand, that helped with their success, but on the other hand, they were notorious for going stale very quickly, which meant people had to eat them as quickly as possible. Poor people. That must have been a really hard task. Next up at the number 6 spot now, we have Chickadees. These things were massively popular across Southeast Asia in the 80s and 90s. Kids everywhere from Australia to the Philippines enjoyed possibly the only chicken flavoured snack on the market at that time. Now I've heard they tasted amazing. I don't know if they use real chicken flavouring though. Either way, each bag also came with a random prize ranging from stickers to a small plastic toy. Chickadees, everyone's a winner. I sound like I'm working for a company that's been gone for like 20 years. Coming in at number 5 now, we have Prism Bars. Prism Bars were released in 1986 by Hershey's. They were only around for 1 single year, but people still remember them fondly as a quintessential 80s chocolate snack. The closest thing you can compare them to today is M&M's. They were that kind of consistency and flavour, but these things never made it out to the 80s. Even the logo kind of looks like an 80s tracksuit. Coming in at number 4 now, we have Walker's Baked Bean flavour. Walker's is the British and Irish version of Lay's crisps. Now where I'm from, we eat baked beans. We love baked beans, and so in 2003 they released Walker's Baked Bean Flavour Crisps. 1 penny from every pack sold went to the comic relief charity that year. People told themselves that's why they were buying them, but the reality is baked beans are amazing. Anything that tastes like baked beans is going to be amazing. Especially baked beans. Okay, I think I've made my point. Next up at number 3 now, we have Cadbury's Chocolate Coins. For some reason, if you make a big coin shaped chocolate and wrap it up in coin looking packaging, they're amazing. I don't know why, it's just how it is. Many kids in the UK and across the world grew up with these things as treats, especially at Christmas. Even Santa somehow managed to get hold of some. Sadly though, the company announced in 2014 that they would be discontinuing them through a random tweet to a fan. Pretty harsh way way to break up. Alright, coming in at number 2 now, we have Turtles Pizza. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have made a little bit of a resurgence in popularity in recent years, but back in the early 90s, Turtle Mania was so huge it ended up creating products like this. Turtles Pizza was made by McCain's, who realized that they could turn the Turtles' love of pizza in the TV show into a real life product. It worked for a while, but they might have gone a little bit too far when they released pizza mini slices, which were covered in a green apple flavored dust. Let's not even go there. And finally, we've reached number 1 now, and we have Screaming Yellow Zonkers. These things looked amazing. They were a popcorn snack that began in the 1960s and lasted into the 2000s. They came in a little black box, which always had some sort of ridiculous advice on them, such as how to wash them, or how to tell if the box is upside down or not. Weird, but I like it. Their unique style drew in fans, but they stayed for over 30 years because of their sweet, sweet taste. Now, as with some other products we've talked about in these videos, I've heard some rumours around that these things might have popped up again in some stores and online, so let me know if you found them anywhere, and send me 10 boxes. 11. Coming out at number 10 now, we have Push Pops. These things were huge in the early 90s. You pushed them up to get the fruit candy and then push them down again to save them for later. They stayed fresh for the whole day, which made them the perfect snack for people looking to get their sugar fix throughout the day. The bright packaging and advertising made it quite clear they were being aimed at kids, and many people said that having them as children was quite a messy experience. Now, they have been gone for a while now, but can still be found in select online stores. Next up at number 9 now, we have Minute Fudge. There are a lot of people out there who love fudge. There's also a lot of people out there who don't like waiting 5 minutes for things. Well, 4-minute fudge from Kellogg's made those people very happy in the late 70s. The packaging said it had a homemade taste and that it was easy and fun to make. At first, this sold very well. The company was even bought by Kellogg's, but eventually it all got kind of fudged up when customers started complaining it was just a sludgy mess. It sometimes took 20 minutes to make, and one customer even said the best thing about it is the recyclable packaging. Savage. But we miss it. Coming in at number 8, we have Vanilla Monster Munch. Now, if you're from the UK, you'll be quite familiar with Monster Munch. They're a popular corn crisp snack in the shape of monsters' feet. Their most popular flavours are roast beef, pickled onion, and flaming hot. Normal flavours, I think, for crisps. But back in 2004, they released vanilla ice cream flavour. It was made with sugar instead of salt and tasted weird. Some people thought it was good weird, other people just thought it was bad weird. It was released as a limited edition, but I think they only said that because they knew deep down it would never really take off. Coming in at number 7 now, we have Astros. These were little chocolatey pellets sold by Cadbury, which we sadly have no more. They were first launched in the UK, Canada, the US and South Africa as a rival to Mars's M&M's, and well, the fact that you guys know what M&M's are and probably not what Astros are kinda shows who won that battle. They were discontinued in the UK, but I have heard they're available in some areas around the world, including South Africa. As ever, do let me know. Next up at the number 6 spot, we have Pancakes and Sausage on a stick with chocolate chips. Yeah, you heard me correctly. I did not mess that one up. In 2006, the Jimmy Dean Company released these things. Now, I don't know if they were drunk, desperate, or just had a really weird craving. It might have been all three. Some people did like these, emphasis on the some. It's one of the weirdest combinations I think I've ever heard of, but to be honest, I do kind of want to try one to see what it tasted like, and then maybe spit it out straight away. Alright, moving on to number 5 now, we have Cheese Tidbits. These were made by Nabisco and they were huge in the 80s and 90s. Little tubes of cheese cracker glory. Back then, the cheese cracker wars were being fought between Cheese Tidbits, Cheez-Its, and Cheese Nips. Yes, that was a real thing. According to Tidbits fans, they were the superior cheese cracker, but something must have gone really wrong because by 2002, they were totally discontinued. Now I know you guys might be like, get over it, there's plenty more cheese crackers out there, but from what I've seen, cheese cracker fans take this thing very seriously. Moving on to the number 4 spot now, we have O'Boyces. In the late 80s, if you wanted to overdose on pure salt, O'Boyces was the way to do it. They were potato chips made by Keebler. Now, from our previous videos, you guys might know Keebler as the company who made sweet treats such as Magic Middles. This was them trying to enter the salty snack market. Although they were popular, it sounds like they had enough salt in them to kill a horse. But you know what it's like, once you pop, you just can't stop. But with these things, you just kind of stop when your lips go numb. Moving on to number 3 now, we have Mr. Bone. This spooky candy was around in the 70s and was packaged in tiny little coffins. Inside each one was Mr. Bones the skeleton, made up of tiny candy pieces. Sounds kind of weird when I put it like that. Anyway, the idea was that you were supposed to assemble Mr. Bones, but apparently no single coffin came with all the right bits you needed. So you'd have to buy lots of different coffins if you wanted to complete Mr. Bones. I see what they did there, clever. Next up at number 2, we have Burger Man chips. These came from Australia and were made by the Real McCoy company. Weirdly, they were in the shape of humans but tasted like burgers. I'm not sure if there was some hidden cannibal message there about people tasting like burgers, but apparently they were really addictive. Unfortunately, the Real McCoy company went out of business a few years ago, and so did the Burger Man chips with them. I've heard that some Australians do still have some bags, so if you're hiding any around the house, hit me up. You know where I am in this video. At number 1, we have mint Skittles. You heard me right. Some of you guys might remember these. Every few years, Skittles seem to just lose their mind and abandon all fruity or sour flavors and bring these things out. They came in white, green, aqua, turquoise, and light green. They were all pretty much just mint flavor. One thing that meant these never took off was the price. They were said to be twice the price, but half the amount of normal boxes. That is mental. I'm sorry. Alright, coming in at the number 10 spot now, we have Giggles. Giggles Cookies were all the rage in the 1980s. Small cookies that came in either chocolate or vanilla flavor with a very creamy center. Each one came with a giggling face that was supposed to make you laugh. That's what I heard. Don't really know about that one. Maybe I just don't get the joke. But anyway, they apparently tasted great. Although there are other things on the market these days, 80s babies still rave about how good these things were. They're basically edible emojis, and that might be a good marketing idea if they ever make a comeback. Moving on to number 9, we have Quaker Oats Dinosaur Eggs Oatmeal. Yes, that name is almost as much of a mouthful as oatmeal itself. The idea was that once you put the oatmeal in the microwave, the little eggs nestled inside would begin to hatch into actual tiny little dinosaurs. Well, not actual dinosaurs, but you know what I mean, they look like them. Now I personally never got to try this, and I'm gutted because I love dinosaurs. This would have had me jumping out of bed every single morning. They were released in 1998 but were eventually taken off the shelves. Although they've been discontinued in stores, a limited amount is being sold on Quaker's own website, so if you like the sound of this, go and check it out. Moving on to number 8, we have Corkers. Full name, Corkers Corn Twists. It first became available in 1968, and these days twisty shaped chips are common, but these were the real OGs. The advert said that fans of the chip all agreed that the only way to unwind at the end of the day was to get all twisted up in a crunchy box of Corkers corn snacks. I'm sure they tasted great, but if I was feeling stressed after a long day, I don't think a packet of Corkers corn twists is going to fix that, but what do I know. Moving on to number 7 now, we have Philadelphia Strawberry Cheesecake Snack Bars. The name was a mouthful, and so was the product. Have you guys ever had a slice of a massive cheesecake and thought, you know what I'd like better than this? I'd like to have a slice of this cheesecake whenever I want. I'm saying that as a joke, but actually I think a lot of you guys might like that. Well, that's what Philadelphia made. These things didn't really take off, but the people that loved them really loved them. Check out them harassing Philadelphia on their Facebook page to bring it back, even to this day. Moving on to number 6 now, we have Elvis Reeses. In 2007, Reeses marked the 30-year anniversary of Elvis Presley's death by releasing their Elvis Big Cup peanut butter and banana cream flavor. People came for the limited edition celebrity packaging, but stayed with the peanut butter banana flavor. Even though they were quite popular, they've never brought these back. But August 16th, 27 will mark 40 years since Elvis's death, so maybe they aren't dead after all. Coming in at the number 5 spot now, we have the 7-Up bar. Now despite its name, 7-Up bar was not related to the famous drink in any way at all. This chocolate bar was first produced in the 1930s and featured 7 pillows of chocolate. Each one contained a different flavor. They would alternate between Brazil nut, buttercream, butterscotch, caramel, cherry, coconut, fudge, mint, nougat, and orange. It was a great idea, but sadly the cost of making these things ended up being way too much, and they were eventually discontinued in 1979. Alright, at number 4 now we have a personal favourite of mine, WWE Ice Cream Bars. Back in the 80s, the most famous wrestling organisation in the world, WWE, released their own ice cream bars. The outer cookie shell had an imprint of your favourite wrestler, then came the vanilla ice cream followed by a thick chocolate flavoured coating. The crowd went wild for them. Even people who didn't really watch wrestling used to absolutely love these things. They were sold for over 20 years, but for some mysterious reason they stopped making them in 2009, and to be honest, no one really knows why. There's actually a Facebook page that is saying bring them back for 1 million likes. They have just over 7,000 likes at the time of filming, so we might be waiting for a while. Next up at the number 3 spot now, we have Oatmeal Swirlers. In the 90s, General Mills released their bowl of Oatmeal Swirlers. The idea was quite simple with this one. How do you get kids to eat healthy oatmeal in the morning? You cover it in a thick swirl of tasty but probably quite unhealthy red jam. Well, it worked. It sold really well, and part of the appeal seemed to be their advert showing how you could do kind of cool drawings with the jam or even play noughts and crosses with your friend. I've heard that in reality the best you could do was just an ugly smiley face. At the number 2 spot now we have Dulce de Leche M&Ms. For many years now, Spanish has been the fastest growing language to English in the US. M&Ms realized this, and in the early 2000s they began to market it to the Latin American population in the US. So they took Dulce de Leche, a traditional flavor in South American confectionery, and made M&Ms of it. Sadly, didn't really take off, but it's still fondly remembered. Alright guys, we've reached the number 1 spot now, and we have Chester's Cheese Doritos. In 1995, two things came together that should have never come together: Doritos and Cheetos. They had a child together called Chester's Cheese Doritos. It was basically a tortilla chip in the shape of a Dorito, but with the flavor of a Cheeto. It sounds incredible, doesn't it? But apparently didn't actually sell too well, and the companies ended up parting ways and they stopped making it. Some say it was actually just a bit too cheesy. I've actually heard that online. Is that even possible though? We may never know. Okay, coming in at the number 10 spot, we have Cajun Spice Ruffles. Ruffles are a very popular brand of chips. We might have some big fans of them watching right now. Well, back in the late 80s, they had Cajun Spice flavor. I was going to tell you guys what they were like, but then I found the original 1987 TV commercial, which featured famous Louisiana cooking show host Justin Wilson, and he does a better version than I ever could.
Is a new Cajun Spice Ruffle potato chip. Look at them ridges full of cayenne pepper, onion, garlic, paprika. Oh, this is Cajun Spice. Ain't nothing flat about it.
Next up at number 9 now, we have Pudding Pie. This late 80s snack was made by Hostess. They were known for their fruit pies at the time, but you know what sells better than fruit? Chocolate sells better than fruit. The pudding had a chocolate crust outer shell with vanilla or chocolate pudding on the inside. They were pretty unhealthy looking, but they also looked insanely tasty. As you guys know, I don't have a sweet tooth, but I wouldn't say no to a nice pudding pie. At number 8 now, we have Trader Joe's Ghost Pepper Chips. If you've never cried, had regret, and wanted to die after eating something very spicy, you may have loved these things. Everyone knows that a ghost pepper is one of the hottest peppers on the planet, and Trader Joe's tried to condense all that heat into one single crisp. The thing is, they were actually kind of tasty, which means they weren't really as spicy as ghost peppers to people eating them who basically didn't want to have a tongue after finishing a bag, and they eventually faded away like a ghost pepper. Alright, moving on to number 7 now, we have Ben & Jerry's Tennessee Mud flavor. For just 1 year, from 1988 to 1989, Ben & Jerry's fans could enjoy a scoop of Tennessee Mud flavor. It was coffee ice cream with amaretto, Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey, and roasted slivered almonds. A lot of people loved it, but apparently not enough for it to not be sent to the Ben & Jerry's flavor graveyard. I didn't make that up, that's actually a real place on their website, by the way. This one has its own gravestone that reads, "The bottle is empty, the cup and the glass, mud with Jack Daniels was not meant to last." Alright, coming out at the number 6 spot now, we have Fiery Habanero Doritos. It wouldn't be a discontinued video without mentioning some sort of Doritos flavor from the past, would it? Fiery Habanero was released in 2005 and was seasoned with cheese powder, onion, garlic and tomato powder, and of course the hot habanero chili. It seems like they might have been a little bit too spicy for the average chip eater though, because they were discontinued not long after their launch, but they do still have Doritos Dynamite Fiery Habanero, which are basically the same thing that just like rolled up Doritos. However, real fans will say it's not the same at all. Moving on to number 5 now, we have Fruit Corner's Fruit Bars. These bars from the 1980s tried to please both kids and their parents alike. Candy bars that were made with real fruit. They were made by General Mills, who hoped they would be filling up school lunchboxes all across America. The really weird thing was, the TV advert for them called them ugly and showed kids shocking their parents and teachers with just how ugly the bars were. I mean, is that cool? I've never found ugly fruit bars cool. Perhaps that's why they were discontinued. Or maybe I'm just not cool. Alright, next up at number 4 now, we have Buenos Tortilla Chips. From 1981 to 1983, Buenos was what you bought if you wanted to fill your face with tortilla chips. They came in traditional and nacho cheese flavors. I know that having only 2 flavors might shock some of you guys, but this was the 80s, I don't know what to tell you. Now, anyone who has heard any Spanish word in their life will know that bueno means good. But just in case you didn't know that, Nabisco kindly put bueno means good on their packaging. Thanks for that. Good. Bueno. Coming in at number 3 now, we have toaster pizzas. I found this one after a lot of searching. There aren't many pictures for our poor editor to show you, except this coupon. Yes, that's right. These were mini pizzas that you would put down in the toaster. They were around in the early 70s, and to be honest, I don't really know why these aren't more of a thing. Check out this part of the page that says all you do is bring it home, the kids take care of the rest. Nice. It was both an advert for pizza and easy parenting. Yummy. Next up at number 2, we have Choco Bliss. These were also from the 1980s. I'm beginning to think they had all the best food back then. Choco Bliss was basically just a small rectangular slice of chocolate cake marketed for kids. The name wasn't lying either. It was pure chocolate heaven. Even the TV commercial described it like this.
New Hostess Choco Bliss is chocolatey on top of chocolatey with chocolatey in between.
Yeah, it's not hard to see why every kid and probably adult love Choco Bliss a little bit too much. And finally at number 1 now, we have French frauds. You guys have heard of French fries? Well, in the 60s you could also get French frauds courtesy of Pillsbury. They look like French fries or onion rings, but were marketed as chip snacks. Honestly, they look pretty tasty, but what they might be remembered for was their weird packaging. It had advice like, give French frauds as a tip to waiters, or hold a contest to see who can make the most noise while eating French frauds. Presumably the person who came up with these has never met a single other human being before, because that's the weirdest idea of fun ever. Also guys, please don't ever give a chip to a waiter as a tip. You will not be allowed back. Starting off at number 10 now, we have Dannon's Sprinklins Yogurt. And right there, I think a few hundred North Americans freaked out about how British people say yogurt. Anyway, Dannon have always been known for their drinkable yogurt, but this product was clearly aimed at kids. What's the best way to make kids enjoy plain but healthy yogurt? Throw millions of tiny sprinkles on top. This was not only tastier for kids, but was also a sign of how cool they were. Spoiler alert, hoarding them doesn't make you as cool as an adult. Trust me, I've tried. At number 9 now, we have Black Pepper Jack Doritos. Doritos have released a lot of different flavors over the years, but Black Pepper Jack might be one of the most missed. It was released back in 2004 and was said to taste surprisingly like pepper jack cheese. I say surprisingly because most things that say they taste like a certain cheese usually don't, but apparently these were different. The black pepper kick wasn't as strong, but hey, nobody cared. Nobody out there is eating Doritos because of their taste accuracy, let's be real. We eat them because they put some sort of addictive substance in there, haven't they? I don't know what it is. At the number 8 spot now, we have Pizza Cruncher Bungers. That's the real name. You guys have loved hearing about old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle snacks, so here's some more for you. Pizza Cruncher Bungers were pizza flavored corn snacks. These had a short but bright life in the 80s, and if you had any doubt that they were from the 80s, I think this TV advert is all the proof you need. Yeah, they were a much loved snack, but as with a lot of products like this, I think people mainly bought them for the turtles and not really for the taste. Moving on to number 7 now, we have Snack Mate Cheese. This was squirty cheese in a can, first released in 1968 and popular for about 10 years across America. Their taglines included cheese that goes anywhere and it's uncanny, meaning it's almost like having real cheese, except Probably not by the looks of this stuff. Either way, many adults have fond memories of having a can of this around the house that was whipped out and squirted on food that was just missing that artificial cheesy flavour. I'm joking, but I do really actually want to try this. How bad is that? Alright, at the number 6 spot now we have sour cream and onion Doritos. Most of us associate sour cream and onion flavoured chips with Pringles, but back in the 70s, Doritos were in that game too. It's been a long time since they were discontinued. If you want any proof of how old these are, then look no further than this TV ad for them. I couldn't believe it.
Sour cream and onion flavored Doritos brand tortilla chips.
And now I want them. Yeah, I don't care about Pringles. I want mine in a triangle shape. Alright, at number 5 now we have Vegemite Snackabouts. This is an Australian snack for Vegemite lovers. If you're from the UK, you may also know it as Marmite. And if you're from anywhere else in the world, you might be thinking, what is that horrible looking black sludge? Do you actually eat that? Well, it's concentrated yeast extract, and if you've tried it, you'll know that it has a very unique taste. It's incredibly salty. Now usually you spread it on toast, but Kraft Snackabouts let you pack it into your lunch for any time of the day. How thoughtful of them. Alright, moving on to number 4 now, we have Turkey Twizzlers. When I was a kid, almost every child in the UK had tried a turkey Twizzler. It was a very common lunch item at schools. It was supposed to be turkey meat in a sort of twizzle shape, but that's literally all anyone knew about them. There were rumours that it was just reconstituted waste meat. Then, in 2005, celebrity chef Jamie Oliver led a campaign to get them removed from school menus because of their high fat content and the fact that they were just 34% turkey. He was probably right to do that, but a lot of people still miss them. Not turkeys though. Next up at number 3, we're going back to Oreos now for Oreo. That was its real name. These were normal sized Oreos, but the cream inside was chocolate flavored. It's kind of weird because they called it Oreos to be all like, oh no, we made this by accident. We didn't mean to make it chocolate flavored. Whoops. But then they made millions of them and shipped them out for years all over the world. The part didn't really make sense then, but that wasn't the point, obviously. People love them for their nice chocolate twist. Sadly, although their packaging promised the great tasting goof was here to stay, they were eventually discontinued. Alright, moving on to the number 2 spot now, we have Doodads. These things had a very healthy shelf life and were around from the late 60s all the way up to the 90s. They were a box of savoury mix by Nabisco. Inside there were 5 different items: toasted peanuts, pretzels, rice squares, wheat squares, and cheese tidbit crackers. Now some of you guys might be thinking, oh, this is just Chex Mix, but apparently it was a lot better than that. Tidbit crackers even went on to become its own snack by itself. Kind of like a guy leaving a boy band and having a really successful solo career. And finally, number 1 now, we have Oreo Cakesters. You guys all know Oreo, and I'm sure you all know cakes. This was an interesting hybrid of the two from the early 2000s. It was Oreo's attempt at dominating the cake market as much as they do with the cookie market. It came in 4 varieties: double stuffed, chocolate, golden Oreos, and peanut butter. I never had these personally. I know some of you guys probably did though. I've heard they were absolutely amazing. Some people even say they were better than actual Oreos, although that is a pretty bold claim. For some unknown reason, Oreo discontinued them and retreated back to the cookie world from whence they came.